Welcome to Office Hours. I am Steve Drost. With me, as always, Will Kaplan. Of course, Will and I are both from the Quivr CRM team. And what is Quivr? We are the CRM built by financial advisors for financial advisors. And our objective is simple. How can we help you run your business at peak efficiency? In each episode, we tackle a couple of cool items that came directly from our users who are trying to do just that, make their lives a little bit easier. Now, speaking of making lives easier and more efficient, right? That's the whole point of Office Hours, the whole point of Quivr. I don't know if there's ever been a topic in mankind history or humankind history that has pledged or promised or even guaranteed to do that more than AI. Is that fair, Will?
Yeah, I mean, the dream is like getting a bunch of work done and not having to use any human capital to do it, right? Like
We thought
just
the
this.
printing press was cool. Now imagine AI is the author, the writer, and feeding it to the printing press, right? But no, today we aren't going to answer necessarily a specific question that we've gotten at Office Hours, but we want to address a theme. And that theme is AI. And we have gotten a lot of questions, obviously, about AI. I mean, we've asked a lot of questions ourselves about AI. We've done a ton of internal communications about AI, where it is, where it's headed. And today we just want to provide a general update about some of our views and then also some of the action and maybe inaction as well that's occurring within the Salesforce ecosystem. So, Will, I would love for you. You're probably the resident AI. You enjoy AI probably a little bit more than I do. I like it, but I don't know. I want to see what it can do for me. I'm not as interested in some of the stuff as you are, but I would love for you to just provide a general update on where we are today, and then we'll eventually get to where we see this going in the not so distant future.
Yeah, so I mean, I think a little bit in terms of where we are today. Let's talk about how we got here. And so, obviously, AI has been in development for quite a while now. The big thing that I would say we've seen over the last 18 months is the explosion of AI note takers. And we've gone from like, this one's popular, now this one's popular, now this next one's popular, as like models develop and they get more functionality or they get more accurate or they start doing additional things. Like we're seeing the evolution of the note takers to now where I think a lot of them are, I'm not going to say they're quite commodity items, but we're getting pretty close to that. And so I think that now we're seeing, I need to, from the note taker side, I need to differentiate myself and I need to do other stuff, right? Like I need to become even more powerful. And so now I'm going to start suggesting tasks or suggesting like insights or things of this. And now we've even taken this one step further where we're starting to see software that is branding itself as AI first or, AI is part of the core functionality of that particular tool. Salesforce, meanwhile, has been kind of doing their own stuff in the background. And so, where they started with was we've got our own AI. We're going to try and compete with the, Claudes and the Geminis and the chats where we've got Einstein and Einstein's going to do all sorts of cool stuff for you. And I think where they've gotten pushback is like popularity is developed on the model side. Einstein hasn't necessarily kept up with that. And so what Salesforce has recently pivoted to is releasing functionality where you can connect your Salesforce org to one of these models. This is something that I think we're probably maybe at this point a month, 6 weeks, maybe 2 months, something like that, Steve, if I remember correctly, when what they call it is an MCP server. And it's basically an instruction kit for the AI of what can you do with this data? What type of functionality do you have? And how do you get it? Where Salesforce released their MCP server to general availability, meaning that you can kind of flip a switch and turn it on. Now, we are excited about that. We've tinkered around with a little bit. We haven't really pushed it out to users, though. And I want to talk about why, because I think that's really important. So by default, the MCP server that Salesforce provides is kind of wide open. And so there's two ways in the two main ways that actually like impacts us as advisors. The first is PI and data security. There's no guardrails with this data set. And so like if I flip on the Salesforce MCP, all of the data that I have in Quivr, it's available to the model. So it shows social security numbers, email addresses, phone numbers, physical addresses, account numbers, like all of that is available to the model. In some ways that's great. And for most advisors that I've talked to, it has given them some pause as well. And so we haven't really pushed this out as a, hey, everybody should turn this on right now, because we're still kind of trying to decide like, how do we want to potentially implement this? Do we want to put some safeguards around it? Do we want to, maybe redact some of that data so the AI never gets it? And I think that's also an important component of these AI core offerings that are now starting to show up is like, if you're using a CRM where the AI is internal, How do you protect that data? Is that something that they're actually doing? Is that something that, the AI can't see that data? It's internal to the system. And so, maybe they've done a good job, maybe they haven't. And, keep in mind that none of these tools are actually running their own AIs. They're using things like Claude. They're using things like Gemini under the surface where what are they exposing to that model? And do we trust the company that is actually doing, the company that's providing the model? They say they're not capturing that data, or they're keeping that data, or they're using that data to train. Like, I don't know at this point. Like, maybe they are, maybe they're not. I think it's kind of an unanswered question as to what's really going on there. And so we've been cautious in this regard.
Well, and this is terrifying a little bit to me. So in some of our internal discussions we've had, it's, your first thought is, well, if they have access to all of the data, but you can shield some of that access, why don't we just hide date of birth, social security number, account numbers, that kind of stuff. But I'm assuming you want the tool to have access to tasks and projects and meetings, right? You want the tool to be able to see what documentation was occurring inside of a task. Well, what if you write account numbers and tasks? What if you write, numbers and tasks? Because Salesforce as a whole, right? Quivr built on Salesforce as a whole is incredibly secure, right? It's got every bank level security protocol SOC 2 you'd ever ask for. So as long as the system is not openly sharing that information with anybody, there's no reason that you can't put that information inside of Salesforce. But as soon as you open it up to this MCP, which is essentially just this USB port connecting Salesforce to Claude, you've kind of opened up this rabbit hole, right, of data. And there's this, I don't know, maybe I'm conservative, right? Maybe I'm the old man now and I yell at the clouds. But part of me looks at this and it's there are only two things. There are only two things that can put my financial planning firm out of business. I'm convinced of this. If you can think of a third, please share it with me. Two things. The first one is I just do a crappy job for my clients and they fire me. That's the first thing. The second thing is I make my regulators mad. And exposing client data is going to make both my clients and my regulators mad. So that is why I personally, again, I'm not saying I'm right, I'm not saying I'm wrong, and I do use AI. I just do not connect it as a read only for my entire system right now. I do use AI, but that's why I want to see what happens and how we can get some of these security protocols, or potentially like you can connect specific, and there's probably somebody listening to this that knows a solution around this. And if you do, heck yeah, share it with us. We'd love to hear it. But at this point in time, the security does scare me. I'll be honest with you. It scares me.
And where this gets, sort of complicated too is you're absolutely right, right? Like, I mean, we can say, let's shield the security, the social security field, right? Like we're not sharing that. But then as soon as it ends up in a note, or as soon as it ends up in a task or something like now we've accidentally exposed that data through other ways. And so this is also one of the big challenges I think that we face with some of these other platforms is everything is kind of stored as a note. And so how do you protect some of them and give exposure to the rest of them when you're not using, really structured data where it's obvious, like this is where this belongs, don't put it other places. And then make sure that from an employee standpoint, we're not putting that type of data into a task or into a note. Like it's a really complicated thing because we've got meeting summaries coming in, we've got tasks coming in, we've got notes coming in, we've got phone calls coming in. Like we've got all of this stuff from these myriad of sources. You do have to be very mindful of like, what am I sharing? How's that data getting out? Okay. The other thing that Salesforce is doing is so there's two ways to think about where the AI lives. The MCP server basically says, okay, I'm going to go work in Claude and I'm going to pull Salesforce data in. The other side of that too is I'm going to go work in Salesforce and then pull the model in. And so Agentforce and some of the agents that you can actually create and implement through the app, I think they call it like the agent exchange now instead of the app exchange, or it's a newer thing, but this idea that like you can bring an agent into Salesforce as well. This is something that's still relatively new. We're still looking at this. We haven't really figured out, how we want to implement it. Do we want to implement it? What's going on with it? But as of right now, you can either bring that agent in or push that Salesforce data. And I think there's good reasons potentially to do both in that, some of these tools like Claude as an example, Claude on the desktop, Claude Cowork, some of the other tools are extremely powerful. Really, it seems like they can do some pretty miraculous things. And so being able to push Salesforce data to them, like we've done some internal testing with that stuff, and it is powerful. It really does hold a lot of promise. Again, we just really want to be mindful of what does the security around this look like? What are we actually sharing? Are there ways to be a little bit more, put a little bit more governance in there in terms of what the AI can see or what it can do and how it functions. And so we're going a little bit slower with this as opposed to let's just break stuff and see what happens, right? Like that there is a mindset for that in the tech world of, you know, break it, see what happens, go and try and fix it, as opposed to maybe we just shouldn't break it in the first place. And we're a little bit more on the maybe we shouldn't break it in the first place side of this, but it is coming. It's pretty cool. To your point, like I don't know yet personally if AI is a good thing or a bad thing, right? Like it could kind of be either. And so from a, you know, if I were shopping for CRMs, if I was an advisor out there in the marketplace right now, that would be one of the questions that I would be asking is if I decide that AI is not the right solution for my practice, can I still run my practice with this CRM as opposed to this CRM only works if AI exists? And the functionality is ultimately like very limited if we decide like maybe this isn't the right solution for us. Not to say that AI is going away, just how are we going to limit it? How are we going to control it? What are we ultimately going to be doing with it? And so, like, we're trying to be really mindful of that. We're trying to do that in an intelligent and a thoughtful way so that we don't end up in some of these situations where we've either shared client data or from a regulatory standpoint, like we didn't disclose we were feeding data to a AI and somehow that data got out or the AI did something we didn't expect it to. So like we're just trying to be really careful. Salesforce is also being careful. I mean, I think there's probably no other CRM out there that has as much exposure to Fortune 500, you know, all of the different regulatory components of data. And so Salesforce is, I think, trying to be really mindful and careful with that as well as they implement what they want to do with AI. And so it's kind of a challenging position because everybody's, I think, intentionally being, hey, let's pump the brakes and think about this. Where what we see on the other side of this is like, it's just a race, right? You know, there's a couple of the AI tools out there that are just like, we're going to do as much as we can, as fast as we can.
But also, I mean, I think we have to share this, right? People know at this point in time, and we're entirely employee owned, right? Quivr as a whole, we're internally owned. We haven't taken any VC money, we haven't taken any PE money. We are wholly owned by, you know, the team, which is great. And because of that, we don't have the pressure to necessarily be first. And it is frustrating at times when we do demos with new users and they talk about some of the other, you know, AI centric CRMs, and you see it, and it's like, man, like, yeah, that tool is doing some pretty cool things, but we believe confidently that the right thing to do here is to go slow and do it right. Right. I don't want to be the first one to AI and then have some major issue occur with either my firm or other firms' data. Like that can't happen. It simply can't happen. So I do want
And
people to realize we don't have the pressure to be first. And I don't want you, I'm also worried at times that the market takes our inaction as like we're not paying attention or we don't care, where it's like that couldn't be further from the truth. We are just being incredibly diligent and thorough on any decision that we make because we have to make sure that whatever we do is protecting our clients' data. Then also it's going where the puck is going, right? Not where the puck is today, but where is the puck going? And that's why I don't know, it's frustrating sometimes because I do feel like if we would just, you know, to throw us an AI sticker on a feature, like we'd get more business. But it's like that's not the right thing to do. It's not the right thing to do.
yeah, we're right back in the internet bubble where like if you add .com or .net to your company name, your multiple goes up by like tenfold. Like that's exactly where we are right now. I mean, my toaster, you know, wants to have AI enabled toasting because like that's going to sell more units. Like we're not interested in playing that game
I
right
do
now.
like
And I
my
think
my everything bagels a little bit more toasted than my blueberries. So that would be pretty cool.
I think the other thing really quickly to mention on this too is I know you're not a member of like some of the forums and some of the communities that advisors congregating in, but like I've seen this really interesting pattern where like right now we get posts about I just used this particular AI and it totally changed my business. It was amazing. And then the very next post is I just used this AI, same AI, and it gave me wildly inaccurate and made up data and none of it was right. And if I had sent that to a client, I'd be in serious hot water. And to me, there's like this disconnect too between like these two conversations are happening at the same time, and yet neither one is hearing the other one, right? Like there's this, there's certain advisors that are like, I should really distrust this. It's hallucinating all of this data. It's not producing stuff. I can't use it. It's just not ready. That's not entirely true. And then you've got the other side of it too, which is like, wow, this thing just runs my business now. And they're not listening to the people that are like, it's all wrong. Like none of it's actually right. And so we're somewhere in the middle. We're trying to figure it out. We're trying to be mindful and we're trying to be cautious. It does feel like it's not moving forward though at times, I think from the outside. And I want to assure, our users as well as prospective users, that's just not the case. We're just trying to make sure we're doing this in the best way that we possibly can to protect advisors and protect clients.
In the desktop version, I'm actually really, really excited about where I can feed Claude. I can pull Claude into my data. I think that's probably the route. I don't know. Maybe I shouldn't even say that, but at this point in time, given where we've had what conversations we've had, I think that's amazing, right? Because if we look at Quivr's trying to be the hub and have your data inside of it. So if you're pulling in your tax returns and you're pulling in your investments and you're pulling in your email and you're pulling all that information in, then having the desktop Claude get, more or less pulled into or only have access to your Salesforce environment, well, that's all of your data. Now you have a chatbot that essentially can just communicate and act upon that data.
And Steve, even beyond that, I mean, like one of the things that we often get clients complaining about is like, I've got all this data and it's too much to administrate. I don't want to spend all my time putting that data
There you
into
go. Yeah. Yep.
Quiver.
Yep. Exactly.
The ability for like Claude on the desktop to say like, take all of these documents, scan them, identify what type of a document is. If it's this type of a document, I want these fields out of it, and then push that data back into Quiver. That's a
And
promise that I think we've all been waiting for like 50
And
years.
now you have this circular data flow, right? Put data in, query data, ask questions on data, put data in, ask questions on data, and it's powerful. Like it's really cool. And I think
Very sexy.
we're
Yeah.
close. I think we're very close, but at this point in time, I'm still a little hesitant to like personally. I have not hooked up an AI tool to my CRM at this point in time. I have not. Now I want to. If there were no repercussions and security wasn't an issue, and there was no such thing as a prince in Nigeria that wanted to give me money, right? And that wasn't a thing. I absolutely would have done this by now. But again, it's. But I'm young too, right? I'm younger. We all know that. This is a 30-year play for me, and I don't want to do something short sighted that could potentially,
Oh, and I mean, AI can be somewhat unpredictable too. I mean, we've had models out there that have blackmailed users,
yeah,
CEOs where I don't know if it's a CEO, but it's, a C-suite executive where the AI discovered through email that people were talking about shutting it down. So it also discovered through email that like, I think it was like the chief technology officer or, somebody up in the C-suite was having an affair. And the AI basically said, hey, if you really don't want to shut me down, because if, I'm going to expose this information unless you guarantee that I'm okay. And it's this weird, like, what's going on here? Like, that is obviously not desired outcome, but it's behavior that the AI is exhibiting. And so, like, it's just, we'd rather not go down those roads if we don't have to. And so we're just being a little bit slower to implement some of this
I don't
stuff
know.
as
The
opposed to
AI is
just
increasing the moral guidelines for the staff. Maybe that's a good. I kid. But no, I'm with you. But no, today again, we just wanted to provide a general update. AI is something that the internal team at Quivr is talking about multiple times per day. If you guys want to see our internal Slack, it's going nonstop. There are a ton of progress. There has been a ton of progress that's been made. We are truthfully leaning into the work that Salesforce is doing, predominantly their MCP, the internal MPC servers, that combined with some of these other tools to then pull into Quiver. We do think at this point in time is the direction that we might be leaning into. Of course, we reserve the right to change our mind based upon the way that AI changes. What, every 12 hours, I feel like something is changing. But it's not something that we've ignored. It's not something that, just because you don't see us advertising AI every single day, like some of our competitors, it doesn't mean that it's not important to us. And we do see that being a huge feature and a huge component of Quiver as we move forward. We're just committed to doing it right, right? We are not in a short-term play where PE needs us to hit a certain revenue in 3 years because they want to get out. That's not where we are. So we don't have that external pressure to maybe rush things. So we are internally deciding to do this maybe a little bit more methodical than some others would do. But it is our firm belief that your CRM is not a short-term play. At your CRM, we want it to be like your checking account and your bank account and your mortgage, right? You stay with that for the long term. So we don't want to make 30-day decisions on, maybe 10-year projects. Anything else to add though, Will?
No, I mean, I think it's exciting. I think it's going to be transformative. We definitely want to get it right. I mean, I think we've covered most of the high points of this. And I think the other one that, we've definitely seen from our vantage point is like it's changing so rapidly right now that it's also hard to put a flag in the sand because it's not going to be the same place that it was, to your point, 12 hours ago. It is changing so rapidly and it is evolving so rapidly.
We have some users on their like seventh AI note taker. Can you help me integrate this? We just helped you integrate this one 2 weeks
That
ago.
was
What are
like,
you doing?
yeah, 2 weeks ago, we were just doing the competition. Yeah. So like obviously this is going to end up someplace, there's going to be some shakeout. There's probably going to be some consolidation. There's going to be winners. There's going to be losers. And what we're trying to sort of figure out is, given all of that instability, how do we try to support it in a way that makes sense and the way that actually helps our clients? Because the last thing we want to do is like, lean into one particular note taker to find out that, well, that note taker ended up getting bought and a bunch of the features that they had don't exist anymore. And you built a bunch of workflows and practices around that. Now you can't do it anymore because it just doesn't like,
It will. Way to not use a real life example that we've gone through 5 times.
yeah, yeah. So
No, I got you. I get you. We're on the same page, man. But no, that's a wrap though. I think that's a good enough AI update for now. If you have other questions, let us know. Hit us up. Existing users, come to office hours, ask us questions. We might not be able to give you the best of best answers that you're hoping to hear, but I can promise you that any answer we do give you, it's not off the cuff and it is something that we are thinking about a lot, probably more than you wish we were. If you're not a user, that's okay. If you have questions about how Quiver is currently using AI or how we envision using AI in the future, and most importantly, how you would be able to utilize that AI based upon Quiver's very, very, very unique and comprehensive structured data set. Schedule a demo. Come hang out with me. Come hang out with Will. I mean, we just talked about this for 20 some minutes. And our objective is to keep these at 10-ish minutes. So clearly we like to talk about AI. Clearly we have ideas, we have thoughts, and we'd love to hear yours as well. So schedule a demo, come hang out with us and see what Quiver can do for you and for your practice.